Good afternoon, everyone. The June 23rd, 2026 regular council meeting is called to order at 4 o'clock. Council would like to acknowledge the Ucluelet on whose traditional territories the District of Ucluelet operates. Audience members and delegates are advised that this proceeding is being video recorded and broadcast on YouTube and Zoom, which may store data on foreign servers. Are there any late items? I will move that the June 23rd, 2026 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as presented.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. All in favor? None opposed. That carries. Moving on to meeting minutes, we have 3 sets of meeting minutes for adoption. The first set is the minutes of the May 20th, 2026 public hearing. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll move that the minutes of the May 20th, 2026 public hearing be adopted as presented.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. All in favor? None opposed. That carries. The next set of minutes is June 9th, 2026 regular council meeting. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll move that the minutes of the June 9th, 2026 regular council meeting be adopted as presented.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. All in favor? None opposed. That carries. And the third set of minutes is the June 17th special council meeting minutes. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I will move that the minutes of the June 17th, 2026 special council meeting be adopted as presented.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. All in favor? None opposed. That carries. We have one delegation on the agenda today. It is titled Enforcement of Bylaw 969/2004 by Felice Mazzoni. Mr. Mazzoni. At the podium, please. Yes.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me here today as a delegation. I'm here to talk about the property of 224 Alder Street, Lot 3, Plan VIP.
I can't hear him on the microphone, guys.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Council, for having me here as a delegation. I'm here to talk about the burnt and unsightly house on 224 Alder Street, Lot 3, Plan VIP 27793, District Lot 21, Claycoat Land District. My name is Felice Mazzoni. I have part ownership in 1280 Helen Street, which is used to be my mom's property. In April 2024, the house next door, 224 Alder, burned in a fire. I have been in contact with district staff for the past 16 months. And unfortunately, the discussions that we've had and this correspondence back and forth, I have not had any success with the removal of that burnt building. I've submitted numerous complaints regarding the burnt vacant structure and its worsening state, including the spread of burnt garbage and debris, pest activity, rats, and potential structural instability. I've tried to get updates from staff as recently as March 2026 without reply. Despite all my attempts at correspondence and dialogue with district staff, the burnt, contaminated mess remains. Now, I work as a director of planning. I know how busy it can be for staff and pretty well everything. And this is probably not a big priority for the community. And I know complaints from public members, it's hard to keep track of those as a staff member. It's hard to get back to people. I get it. I really do. I've been doing this for 30 years. So I'm not going to come in here and I'm not going to start pointing fingers and I'm not going to start blaming. I'm just going to try and come in here with a solution for council. I am asking council today for the following. I'm asking for a declaration from council that the structure is a nuisance pursuant to section 72 and 74 of the community charter. I am asking council to impose remedial action requirements by directing staff to immediately initiate the removal of the burnt structure, burnt vehicles, and piles of debris and restore the property to a remediated state. What is a remedial action order? Section 72 and 74 1A of the Community Charter authorize council to declare a building or other structure to be a nuisance and to impose remedial action requirements in relation to that nuisance. Section 74 subsection 2 expands this authority to include situations where the property is considered by council to be so dilapidated or unclean as to be offensive to the community. I believe section 74 subsection 2 applies in this situation. If you've gone by that property or just looked up on the driveway, you can tell that it is a disaster. Section 72 through 74 of the Community Charter provides council with the authority to identify, declare, and take action to correct nuisances and hazardous situations on private land by issuing a remedial action order. This would be the most effective and efficient way and process in order to allow the municipality to proceed with remediation of the property, including the removal of the burnt structure, the removal of associated foundations, debris, as well as filling or grading any excavated or flooded areas beneath the structure to ensure adequate drainage. This action represents the only effective means to permanently resolve the ongoing nuisance conditions, given the absence of meaningful resolution by the owner in the past and the length and uncertainty of change in the ownership in the future. This direction would address the health, safety, and aesthetic concerns associated with a long-term burnt, vacant, and deteriorated structure. It would eliminate the risks of unauthorized entry and restore the property to a condition compatible with surrounding residential uses. Remediation would also relieve neighboring residents from the continuing impacts, including concerns over neighborhood safety arising directly from the current state of the property. Should council proceed with declaring the property a nuisance, staff will be responsible for ensuring the appropriate and necessary steps are taken to carry out council's direction. After a remedial action order is made, the district can, either directly or through contractors, enter onto the premises and conduct the remedial work necessary to abate the nuisance conditions. Pursuant to Section 17 of the Community Charter, the costs of the work would be applied to the property tax account of the property. Through previous correspondence, I've been informed by staff that the district has already sought a cost estimate for the works required to satisfactorily remediate the property. If costs accrued are transferred to property taxes, all standard property tax rules apply, interest, arrears, delinquency, all of that. There should be no concerns about the district's ability to recoup the costs associated with this remediation. It will not be on the taxpayer's bill. Unpaid property taxes become a debt of the deceased's estate and must be settled by the executor before assets can be distributed to beneficiaries. If the taxes go unpaid for a prolonged period of time, the local municipality can seize and publicly auction the property to recover the arrears. The legal representative or executor is required to pay all outstanding property taxes out of the estate's available funds. Overdue taxes accrue interest and penalties, which continue to add up until the balance is paid in full. The District of Ucluelet is under no obligation to wait for probate process to be either initiated or completed to issue a remedial action order. Probate could take years to complete. The district can immediately alleviate the issue by issuing a remedial action order, clean up the property, and add costs to the outstanding taxes and recoup them later in the process. This will also alleviate the future owner of the complexity of cleaning up a mess of this magnitude, as many people are unfamiliar and unable to understand the scope and scale of a cleanup of a project like this. This would also allow the municipality better control of the cleanup of the property and reduce liability. The onus will be on the executor or the estate to contact local municipal office here to inform them of the owner's passing, if they haven't done so already, and to apply to the municipality, if they are eligible, to defer taxes or to prevent forced tax sale of the property after 3 years while the estate is being settled. I've tried to be patient during this process. I really have. I watched when my mom was still alive and had to endure living beside the burnt mess. No one should have to live out their remaining years housebound beside a burnt pile of rubble, but she did. I humbly ask council to make a declaration that the structure is a nuisance pursuant to sections 72 and 74 of the community charter, and I am asking that council impose remedial action requirements to clean up the property. The inevitable probate process will initiate during or after the property has been remediated if it hasn't started already. There is an existing CRA charge on the title as well as an outstanding half ownership charge through British Columbia Family Maintenance Agency for outstanding child support. The ownership rights of this property are going to be complex as they go through probate, and that could take years to play out. It is not fair to ask our family, the surrounding residents, and the rest of the community to wait out the probate process to eventually allow a future owner yet another chance of voluntary compliance. This process has completely failed once. Let's not repeat the same mistake again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mazzoni. Mr. Harding, can you tell us where we're at with this process, with this property?
Thank you, Mayor. I was wondering if there's any questions you had for the delegation, though, at this point.
Any questions for Mr. Mazzoni? No,
Not to the audience.
I think we're all aware of the property you're referring to. 2 years does seem like a very long time to resolve this issue.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll turn over to Mr. Brown, who's been working on the file, and we do agree as staff, though this has taken a long time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor, and very much concur with your comments there that there has been an extended life to this file, and can definitely sympathize with the impact that would have on surrounding neighbors in the community. The issue stems, as noted from the delegation, from a structural fire that occurred on April 5th, 2024. There was some challenges with respect to working with the property owner and bringing them into compliance, which was documented through the bylaw enforcement process. This predates my time here, but there's a clear record of the bylaw and building staff trying to work with the property owner to bring it in compliance. Always the first approach is to seek voluntary compliance. Then there was, unfortunately, the property owner is no longer with us, and that introduced a more complex situation with regard to bringing the property into compliance. I won't go into all the details, but there's quite a series of correspondence and attempts to bring resolution to that. But a do not occupy order was placed on the property. As of a couple months ago, staff were preparing a report to bring to council with respect to beginning the process, the enforcement process, initially by placing a notice on title. At that point in time, the ownership of the property was unclear. Unfortunately, due to just some staffing constraints and also working with the legal team, we weren't in a position we were targeting to actually bring that report this month. Unfortunately, just due to some delay, we weren't able to. But I can advise council that most recently, as of yesterday, the probate process is concluding, and the father of the deceased former owner, and I asked for his permission to share this. He is looking to effectively resolve the situation as quickly as possible, and had reached out, and we'd had a discussion on bringing a resolution to the property. He's fully aware of the community impact that this has had, and wishes to see it remediated. With that said, I did inform him that staff do intend to bring forward a report once we've worked through just a couple matters with our legal team on bringing some options for council's consideration. So the deceased owner's father is aware of that, who is now responsible for the estate. With that process, we would present council with all the information that we have in a report that would help your decision making and provide an element of procedural fairness to that decision. We would also, of course, let the individual who's responsible for the estate know that council would be considering potential action against the property. That would be the process that we would recommend, and we anticipate having that in front of council in fairly short order.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Is there a way to expedite it even further, or you're already on top of everything you can do with this?
My advice to council would be to wait for that report. We should have that for you within the next couple, hopefully the next meeting. We had intended to have it for tonight, but like I said, we were waiting on a couple matters from our lawyers with that regard. And serendipitously, it worked out that actually was able to have a conversation with the now property owner. So that would be my advice to council, is to wait for that report to make the decision, any decisions. If council does wish to pursue remedial action, the community charter does allow, I believe it's 14 days, but I would have to, I'd want to confirm that for council, and we of course lay that out in the report to request council's reconsideration of any remedial action. So there is a process, and we would want to make sure that we're going through that with procedural fairness.
All right, thank you for that. Mr. Mazzoni, are you comfortable with this resolution?
I will come back to that council meeting and watch. I am wary of promises, and as I've heard promises for 2.5 years, and again, dealing with voluntary compliance is like that in a lot of communities. But I would impress upon council the scale and scope of the removal and of that building is not a small task. It will be difficult for the landowner to do that within the parameters that the municipality places on it. Remedial action orders allow the owner 30 days to clean up the property. And once that 30-day period is complete, that allows the municipality to come in with their own crews. So I leave it with council to decide whether you want to do a remedial action order now and decide to do that, or if you want to do that after the next report. But I'll be coming to that meeting regardless.
Thank you. So Mr. Brown is suggesting that the report come to us at hopefully the next meeting with options, and the remedial action would be one of those options. Okay. Is council comfortable with that? Any comments from anyone? Councillor Noel?
I'll just chime in. Yeah. Hey, Felici, good to see you, and for all the wrong reasons. I think we'll just wait for staff. I think Mr. Brown will get you that report. And I think we'll just have an expectation the next council meeting. We'll have something here to present to you. I do agree with everything that Felici's saying. And I think we'll just wait for that staff report and hopefully expedite this in a timely manner. And if we're not satisfied with what we hear from the current landowner, then as you've clearly illustrated, we have many tools in our toolkit that we need to start using and not delay this any further. So thanks again for coming before us today.
Thank you, Mako.
Yeah, this is in my neighborhood actually, and I've been wondering what's going on with it. So I really appreciate you bringing this to our attention. It's great. Thank you. Is there any unfinished business? Nope. All right, we have 2 bylaws on the agenda today. The first bylaw is titled OCP and Zoning Amendment for High Focus Island, third reading, and it will be presented by Tyler Brown, Director of Planning and Strategic Initiatives. Mr. Brown.
Madam Mayor, I may jump in.
Oh, Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, so, yeah, in an abundance of caution, I've decided to recuse myself of this because I live in the residence immediately next to it. So I will leave the council table until this matter is discussed.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Anderson. All right, Mr. Brown, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will provide sort of a brief overview of the proposal. I just first want to highlight some key dates with this. And as Council's well aware of this is the second iteration of an application before them. But this iteration was presented to Council on November 18th of last year. And then on February 10th, 2026, Council granted first and second reading to the OCP and zoning amendment bylaws. Following council direction, a statutory notification was provided for a public hearing, which was held on May 20th, 2026. And tonight before you is a potential third reading of both the zoning and the OCP bylaws. In summary, the Kissackstown Planning is on behalf of a property owner is proposing a residential development on what is known as High Focus Island. If approved, this would facilitate 60 long-term units through an R6 zoning. The proposal as presented includes 51 compact homes and 9 smaller single families. This section of the zoning would be strictly short-term rentals would be prohibited and would be strictly limited to long-term residential units. The proposal also includes 25 larger lots or an R7 zone, which would be permitted to have a secondary suite or accessory dwelling unit, one of which could include a short-term rental as long as the floor area of that short-term rental did not exceed 50% of the principal residential use on the property. The applicant has committed to a community amenity package. It's detailed in the previous reports in these reports, but in summary includes a 25% protected parkland and open space dedication, connected trail systems, a tsunami warning system, and the transfer of 2 parcels to the district for future use. These amenities would be secured through a Section 219 covenant and realized as the development proposal is built out. With regard to servicing, it was reviewed by Coors, and that confirmed that the project is feasible, provided that the applicant installs some new water sanitary infrastructure, including lift stations, and would include road upgrades along Helen Road up to Marine Drive. These items as well would be secured through a 219 section covenant and realized as the proposal is built out. Just as noted in the public hearing, there was a request from the applicant to increase the maximum size of the gross floor area of accessory buildings from 60 square meters to 90 square meters. This would be for the R6 zone portion and would align with the R7 zone. Council is presented with 3 options in the report to proceed with third reading of the bylaws as originally presented. There's a second option to pass a motion to amend the bylaw to accommodate the proponent's request to increase the accessory dwelling unit size. And if that's something that council does wish to entertain, we do have, there are a couple motions with corporate services that we could get up on the screen just so you're not looking for wording. And the third option would be to defeat or abandon the bylaws. As the public hearing did close, no new information is being presented to council. So all the information that was presented at the public hearing is what I've reiterated tonight and attempted to summarize tonight. And before you is third reading of both the bylaws.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I'll start with questions for Mr. Brown from council. I don't see any questions. Could you provide us with those options to amend the bylaw in option 2? You said you had some that you could share with us.
Absolutely. If council does wish to explore that, some appropriate wording, there we go, is on the screen. It's coming on the screen.
Yeah, right.
Mayor, so that motion would just be simply for the zoning bylaw, the OCP amendment motion in the agenda package, and the recommendation could be read as written.
All right, I feel like we need some comments from council. Is council comfortable with option 1 or comfortable with amending the bylaw in option 2 or defeating the bylaw? Looking
Well, I'll
for
start the party if you don't mind. Someone's got to start it here.
Councillor
Mark, I know
Noel?
you're in a tight schedule. I'd like to give you the floor first. You know, I know that you want to get on to other important things. I'm happy to chime in, but if you want to start it, you're more than happy to let you do that.
I'd be happy to, and let me just open by apologizing. I'm not there in person. I was called away mid-morning, family emergency, and I'm just zooming in from the parking lot of the hospital here. I really did want to be present at this meeting though, because I appreciate how much work has been put into this application by the proponent, the efforts that they've gone to consult with the community, and the efforts that the community has gone to share their feelings with council, with the proponent. I wanted to open by acknowledging that, and that's why I felt that it was my responsibility to be here to vote for this, because of the amount of energy and effort that everyone has put into it, which I have a lot of respect for. I'll cut. It's been a back and forth and a back and forth, and I've settled on a position where I don't feel comfortable. And the reasons for it are fairly straightforward. I just don't think that the project is financially viable the way that it's been presented. At the last council meeting, a number of people got up and spoke to the room to share details and to share their perspective on the different aspects of the project, everything from offsite servicing, opening up the canal, the cost of the buildings, and at the same time that I commend the proponent and everyone who spoke for the transparency and the information that they provided. In large part, that's what leads me to believe that it's just not really viable. The costs that were presented to us, which I think were presented in good faith, I just don't think that the numbers are going to add up to create what has been put forward as the intention, which is attainable housing. I think by the time it's said and done, we're going to see the cost creep up higher and higher and higher. And I just don't think that Ucluelet needs this type of housing. I really truly recognize how much of a need for housing we have in our community. And after discussions with folks from our planning department, I think that we have other options open to us that are going to put us as a community in a better position to build the type of housing that Ucluelet needs. I'm not opposed to this project, but I just don't think that the numbers are going to add up in a way that it's going to deliver on what it promises. And the last thing that I want to say, because I think it's important and it's factored into my decision, is something that I want to preface by saying that I commend the proponent for how open and transparent they've been. So I don't think that there's even like a of anything underhanded at all whatsoever. But a worst case scenario, though it may be, is that council approves an OCP amendment, which is a big deal, approves a zoning amendment, which is a big deal, And then maybe because the numbers don't work, we're left a parcel of land that you know the next council or the next council after that is going to be starting on the back foot to deal with. And we've seen that happen in my time on council several times already. And I'm worried about the worst case scenario, and I'm a little bit pessimistic about the best case scenario. So for me, this is a reluctant but firm pass.
Thank you, Councillor Mafti. Councillor Noel?
Thank you, Councillor Mafti, and I wish I was there too as well, but I had a prior engagement with the provincial BC Food Bank convention here, so my reason for not being in the room tonight. You know, this was a very tough decision. Back in in my head, listening to everything, and I've been on the fence here, but at the end of the day, you know, I met with the developer more than once and very supportive of everything here, but you know, it goes back down to forming character, that part of town, and you know, our town, it's got beautiful parts, you know, to it. Doesn't matter what subdivision that has been created in the last 30 years, and you know, I've personally watched the growth in the almost 55 years that I've lived in town, and but this one's a bit of a different one. You know, it's not roads, it's not anything. It's just about changing that little corner of Helen and Marine and whatever else is down there, changing it into something that is going to be drastically different. You know, town is nice and quiet at certain parts of the day, and the livability, and you know, construction and changing the peace and tranquility has a negative effect on people. So I'll read a little bit that I said here to try to stay on track here. So I believe this proposal is simply too much for this location at this time. Rezoning this property would substantially change that part of town, and I'm not convinced the community is ready for that level of change. My concern is the scale of the proposal and the impact it would have on the surrounding neighborhood. I recognize that Ucluelet needs housing, and I generally support additional housing opportunities. However, supporting housing does not mean supporting every proposal in every location. Council's job is to consider a long-term impact of these decisions on the community, and in this case, I believe the scale of the proposal rezoning would result in a significant change to the character of the area, and I'm not prepared to support that change at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Noel. Councillor Hoare, your turn.
Can't just say ditto. I do appreciate the openness of this particular developer on this project and the changes they've made. Councillor Noel mentioned the livability. One of the things that I consider important is the walkability. And we're talking about an area it's not near the center of town, but it would be an incredibly dense development. And I don't think it's the right spot for it. We're talking about a piece of land that's got wildlife on it. It's right next to the sewer lagoons, which have not been mentioned. I mean, I know that there are ideas for how to deal with that, but I just can't agree that this is the right place for that level of development.
Thank you, Councillor Hoare. Yeah, I've been on the fence with this one for a while. I know the proponents really gone over the top to try and listen to what the community wants and has adjusted their plan accordingly. And right now we're 0 for 5 for rezonings, which is not a great look for open for business. But to steal Mr. Harding's words, we can only set the table and invite developers to come and propose to us. And this particular proponent has really changed their proposal to listen to what public feedback has said. Unfortunately, I think I do agree with the rest of my council that it is still a little too dense for that area, and I would hate to see it be rezoned and have an OCP rezoning as well, and then have it maybe not be developed just for financial reasons. There's always that. We've seen that time and time again. So yeah, on the fence, but really kind of leaning now to not accepting this rezoning. So we do have a suggested motion, which I will read out and take a vote unless anyone has further comments that they'd like to say. Nope. Okay, I will move that the District of Ucluelet Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 1394, 2026 be read a third time. All in favor? All opposed? Can I see hands? All opposed? Motion defeated. So there's really no point in reading the second recommendation, Mr. Harding? No. Okay. All right.
Can I just I know we've already talked about it and I've already said my piece. I just want to conclude by commending Mr. Rosenau and the proponent for all the work that they did. I think you know, it kind of breaks my heart a little bit because I feel like they really bent over backwards to do everything right. And I know that this is going to sting a little bit. But you know, life is long and it's a big world, and this isn't the only project that Ekistics has in their portfolio. And if our paths should cross again, I'd really love to see what they bring to the table, because yeah, it's been really positive to see the lengths that Ekistics have gone to consult with the community, and I just want to acknowledge that.
Thanks, Councillor Mafty. I agree. Of all the developers that we've dealt with recently, Ekistics has been the most professional, and I certainly appreciate that. And they may come back with yet another plan. We don't know, but thanks for your comments. Any further comments, Councillor Noel? Okay, then we will move on to the second and last bylaw.
Madam Mayor, before you... Oh, sorry.
Councillor Mafty.
So I'm sorry. I'm completely discombobulated right now, and I like I said, I'm just on my phone here. I can't stay for the whole meeting. I really wanted to vote on the high focus. Can you just remind me what the next bylaw is? I don't believe that my presence is going to be decisive for any of the other votes.
Yeah, no problem. It's the Wildlife Attractant Amendment Bylaw and enforcement.
Yes, I'm very against wildlife attractments. With my apologies to my fellow councillors and to the community, I'm going to have to excuse myself and go see to my mom here. But thank you for letting me join in for this important vote.
Thanks for joining us, Councillor Mafty, and best wishes for your mum.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome back, Councillor Anderson. The second and last bylaw is titled Wildlife Attractant Amendment Bylaw and Bylaw Notice Enforcement Amendment Bylaw, and it will be presented also by Tyler Brown, Director of Planning and Strategic Initiatives.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll give a brief overview. I just want to thank Mr. Chow, who's done a lot of heavy lifting, working to get these amendments done. So I really appreciate the efforts he's made. As you're well aware, Council has adopted the Wildlife Attractant Bylaw, but it did not include a fine schedule. The amendments before you today are based on discussions with WildSafe BC and looking at other local governments that have similar bylaws to put in a fee schedule and fines with respect to when we ticket that there's a fine that would need to be paid. So yeah, it would add in the fine schedule as recommended and worked in consultation with WildSafe BC. It would give the bylaw officer and the wildlife safety response officer the ticketing authority through the district's newly adopted adjudication system. In our opinion, it fixes a little bit of an operational gap there regarding the regulations and the definitions around commercial bins, and ultimately will serve as sort of the regulatory backbone to complement, as we touched upon a little earlier. Our first effort is always voluntary compliance. In this particular case, there's a huge education component with it, and but in the event that education is not fruitful, having the ticketing and the fine schedule will allow us to seek enforcement through other means than education. So happy to answer any questions. And again, thanks to Mr. Chow, and also Ms. Fortune has been very active on this file as well. So hopefully between the three of us, we can answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. When this was first brought to us, there was no fine schedule, and I think Councillor Noel was very quick to point that out. So I'm sure we're all really appreciative to have this in place now, or almost in place. And I see that there is a potential fine of not more than $50,000. That's fairly substantial. That could be a deterrent for people.
It would be variable though, not
Okay, any questions or comments for Mr. Brown? Councillor Noel?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. There, yeah, Mr. Brown, thank you. I think it's great, and I like the fact that you've got even the early payment option for people. So I think having clear penalties and for your young whippersnapper that's out there causing havoc with all the commercial customers right now, I think it's great to have it. So I'm happy to see it this, Dave, and I'm happy to make these recommendations also, if anyone, unless someone else has something to say.
Any comments from other councillors? Comments, questions?
No,
Happy dance?
yeah. No, that's terrific news. I think the new adjudication system is great for this. I think this is timely, and I think we've responded to a really bad year last year in the appropriate manner. And I think we've had a lot of help with conservation officer and their department and the new position out here. So yeah, no, I think this is terrific. But I will let Councillor Hoare say anything she wants to before, or Mako can read the.
I'm just really pleased that we, at the last minute, pivoted and put this in our budget for the conservation officer, even though I think it's just 4 months. I think next year, if we get Tofino and the ACRD on board, that we could potentially fund a CO for the whole year. That's the goal anyway. Go ahead, Councillor Noel.
Okay, I'll go for it. I move that the District of Hewlett Wildlife Attractant Amendment Bylaw number 1390.01/2026 be ready first time.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
I also move the District of Hewlett Wildlife Attractant Amendment Bylaw number 1390.01/2026 be ready second time.
I second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
And I move that the District of Hewlett Wildlife Attractant Amendment Bylaw number 1390.01/2026 be read a third time.
I second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
I move that bylaw notice enforcement amendment bylaw number 2019.01/2026 be ready first time.
I second, sorry.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
I move bylaw notice enforcement amendment bylaw number 2019.01/2026 be read a second time.
I'll second that.
Oh, Councillor Anderson seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
And lastly, I move bylaw notice enforcement amendment bylaw number 2019.01/2026 be read a third time.
I'll second that.
Councillor Anderson seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries. Excellent. Thank you for that report. For all of you that participated, Mr. Chow, Ms. Fortune, Mr. Brown. All right, we're moving on to reports. We have 6 reports on the agenda today. The first report is titled Zoning Bylaw Refresh, Draft Zoning Bylaw, and it will also be presented by Tyler Brown, Director of Planning and Strategic Initiatives. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to actually turn it right over to the super awesome Carrie and Brittany from Urban Systems, who have been working very hard and very quickly on this with the condensed timeline. So over to them to give you an overview, and just a big thanks to them for their work to date on the project, but especially in the last 4 to 6 weeks as they've been grinding out the bylaws. So over to them.
Thanks for the introduction, Tyler, and hello, Mayor and Council. We're really excited to be here with you virtually tonight. Can you see my screen? It's my first question for you.
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Okay, we will get right into it. So Kara, and as Tyler mentioned, Kara and myself and other members of our team have been working very closely with district staff on this project over the last 6 to 7 months to refresh the existing zoning bylaw and create a new bylaw that aims to address many of the challenges that staff in the community have been experiencing in terms of interpreting and implementing the existing zoning bylaw. And we're really excited to be presenting to you the full draft tonight. We think we've crafted a new bylaw that's more user-friendly and both better reflects and accommodates how the community would like to grow and develop in the future. So we do have a pretty meaty presentation to get through tonight, so we will try to be as efficient as possible in the delivery of this so that we can have lots of time for questions and discussion at the end. So before we get into the nuances of the bylaw itself, we'll just go over what we're going to be chatting with you about tonight. So first, we're going to start the conversation with a recap of some of the project's details, including the purpose of the project, its timeline, and how the community has been engaged during the update to this bylaw. Hopefully you had a chance to review the bylaw before today's meeting, and if you did, you'll notice that there have been lots of changes that have been made to the bylaw. And so in the essence of time today, we're not going to go into detail on every single change that was made. We would be here for probably a full day or two if we did that. So we're going to focus the presentation on the key changes that were made to the bylaw, as well as some of the key features of the new bylaw. And we're happy to take any questions at the end of the presentation about any items that we may not have covered during the presentation today. And then finally, we will wrap up with next steps for getting the bylaw to the finish line. And we'll pass it over to Tyler at the end to wrap us up with some options associated with how we can go about those next steps. So let's get right into it. So these slides you have seen before in our other presentations to you to date. So this is largely a recap and just a quick reminder about some of the project details. So I'm going to aim to go over this pretty quickly here. Just a reminder about the project purpose, why the zoning bylaw is being updated. There are a few key reasons that are highlighted on this slide. The first one being to clarify, simplify, and modernize the bylaw so that it's easier to use by both staff and the community. Another key driver of the bylaw is to address key challenges that have been identified by the community over the years since the bylaw was adopted in 2013. So we acknowledge that lots of things have changed in Ucluelet since then, and we want to ensure that the bylaw is reflective of what the community's vision is today for growth and development in the future. We also want to ensure that the Housing Accelerator Fund Action Plan is fulfilled. And so undertaking an update to this bylaw was identified as a key action in this plan. And so updating the bylaw provides an opportunity to continue building upon some of that work that was initiated through the Housing Accelerator Fund process last year. And finally, we want to ensure that the bylaw aligns with the direction outlined in the official community plan that was adopted a few years ago in 2022. So there's been a lot of work that's went into drafting this bylaw over the last 6 months or so since we started the project at the end of 2025. We've had a few touch points with yourselves, as well as some engagement with the community to seek input on a whole range of topics, including gentle density, short-term rentals, pre-zoning for mixed use and multi-unit residential development, electric vehicle parking, bike parking, amongst a few others as well. And we'll show on the next slide what all these engagement tactics have been as part of this project so far. Now, all the conversations and inputs that we have received through those conversations have led us to formulate the draft bylaw that we're presenting to you for your consideration today. So you'll see on the slide where we are. Here we are in the spring. So following this meeting today, Our next steps will be to refer the draft bylaw to external agencies for their review and comment, as well as post the bylaw for comment by the community. And so following that, there might be some tweaks that could be necessary to the bylaw to prepare it for approvals. And so the final stage would be those approvals, which would include readings as well as adoption, and a public hearing would be part of that process as well. So as I mentioned, we have had multiple touch points with the community on this zoning bylaw project so far. There's been 2 phases of engagement. So the first phase included an online survey that was paired with an open house, and that occurred in February. If you recall, we had just over 100 people come out to the open house, and we had close to 300 responses received to the survey during that February engagement period. There was also a roundtable with members of the development community that were invited to attend a conversation about the zoning bylaw. And then in the second phase of engagement, which happened more recently in the spring, we were focusing on discussing a couple of key topics with the community related to approaches for housing and short-term rentals. And so we had another open house on May 5th that had over 30 attendees come out and participate. And then we had a survey at that time as well that had around 90 responses. And throughout the project, there has been a project page available on the district's website that's provided some quick information about the project, schedule, frequently asked questions, etc. And then there was a page added to UKI Listens in early May. And so that page also provides similar project update information as well. And so moving forward, the opportunities for input on the draft bylaw will be posting the bylaw online and providing an opportunity for the community to provide any comment on that, as well as referring the bylaw out to external agencies for comment. And then something that's actually missing from this slide that I apologize that I just noticed now was the public hearing too that I mentioned on the last slide. So that will be another opportunity for input as well before the bylaw is adopted. Okay, so that is it for the project overview. So now we're going to shift gears into discussing the key changes and features of the new zoning bylaw. So first, we will cover the bylaw's new format. So if you've had a chance to take a look at the bylaw, you've probably noticed that it looks pretty different than the existing bylaw, and we're pretty excited about this new proposed format. It really aims to improve the user experience with navigating the zoning bylaw, and it also aims to encourage the user to review all parts of the bylaw instead of just going to a zone, reviewing the regulations that are in that zone, and potentially missing other information. So this has been made possible by organizing regulations in tables whenever made sense, really, as well as organizing the zones into categories. You also may have noticed, or perhaps this was not in this version, but in the next iteration that you will see, there are going to be hyperlinks for all of the defined terms throughout the bylaw. So you'll be able to easily click on a term that is defined, and it will take you back to the definition for that term. So then you can easily navigate in the bylaw to understand, okay, what does this term mean versus this term? There will also be a high-level table of contents included at the bottom of each page so that you can easily navigate between different sections of the bylaw. So if, for example, you're in the low-density residential zone section of the bylaw, you want to know if your property is subject to any landscaping requirements, you can just click on the landscaping and screening section at the table of contents on the bottom of the page, and it will take you back to that section. So that feature is to be added in the next iteration of the bylaw before it's brought for first reading. Finally, we have also reviewed and updated all of the graphics and maps from the existing bylaw and added in new graphics where logical to aid with the interpretation of regulations. So Most of these graphics you will see included throughout the definitions, the general regulations, the use-specific regulations, landscaping and screening, and the parking and loading sections. So shown on the slide here is an example of a section from the general regulations that provides guidance on projections into setbacks. So in the snippet on the left-hand side, you'll see what these regulations look like in the existing bylaw. And then on the right-hand side, you can see what these regulations look like in the new bylaw. So as you can see, the information has been organized into a table format. So hopefully it's easier to read and understand what exactly the provisions and regulations are, instead of reading all of these words and long clauses. And on this slide, we have an example of what the zones look like in the new zoning template. So on the left-hand side are snippets of the first page of the existing bylaws commercial zones. And on the right is a snippet of what these zones look like in the new bylaw. So information for each zone in the new template is included in a zone category. So zone categories can now be found in a series of tables that allow for comparison of zone intents, uses, and development regulations for each zone within a zone category. So all of the zones the commercial zones that are shown on the left-hand side are now part of the mixed use zone category. And so all of that information is organized in tables. So everything just allows for easier comparison between the different zones within a category. Okay, so now we're going to shift the conversation to discuss some of the key features and changes that were made to the general and use-specific regulations, the landscaping and screening, and parking and loading regulations. And these are included within parts 5 to 8 of the updated bylaw. And for reference, these are divisions 300 to 600 in the existing bylaw. So first we'll talk about amenity areas. These are contemplated in part 6 of the new draft bylaw, section 6.2. So the existing bylaw does not provide a definition of amenity space, and it only specifically discusses shared outdoor amenity spaces, which are currently required for detached secondary dwellings in multi-unit residential development based on the housing form and the number of bedrooms that are proposed per dwelling unit. So through this zoning refresh process, we've been considering what the community might need in the form of amenity space, particularly if the community might see more multi-unit residential housing forms in the coming years. So we have categorized amenity space into 2 types, and you'll see some examples of these types on the screen here. There's private amenity space and shared amenity space. And shared amenity space is broken down further into outdoor amenity space and indoor amenity space. So a private amenity space is something that's accessible only to residents of the individual dwelling unit. So this could be their backyard in the context of a single family home. In the context of something like a townhome or an apartment building, it might be a patio, a balcony, or an individual storage locker. A shared amenity area is something that is common space that's accessible to all residents of a site. So this would only apply to multifamily or multi-unit residential development. And so like I mentioned before, you can have shared outdoor amenity space, which might be like playground equipment or an outdoor patio, maybe an outdoor swimming pool, versus shared indoor amenity space could be something like a gym, a communal kitchen, a meeting room, or also a shared storage space for recreational equipment. So private amenity spaces are now required for all types and scales of residential development. So everyone will be required, everyone will have the opportunity to have their own amenity space regardless of the type of development. And then shared amenity space requirements vary depending on the scale of development. So a shared outdoor amenity space must be provided for any development that has 10 or more dwelling units. And this is in addition to the private amenity space. And developments that have more than 50 units must provide a shared indoor amenity space, in addition to the private and shared outdoor amenity space. Okay, so switching gears to cannabis regulations. The current bylaw explicitly prohibits the production and sale of cannabis products district-wide. So this means that potential cannabis retailers are required to apply for rezoning or a temporary use permit to operate cannabis retail. And there is an existing cannabis retailer within the district, and that use is permitted through a temporary use permit. So this is something that we had engaged with yourselves, Mayor and Council, on back in January when we started the project. And at the time, direction was provided to seek feedback from the community on this topic. So during the engagement, we did seek feedback from the community, and this feedback indicated mixed sentiments about whether or not cannabis retail be permitted outright in the zoning bylaw. And so the new zoning bylaw, what we're proposing is to neither outright prohibit nor permit cannabis retail. So as a result of this, future cannabis retailers will still be required to apply for rezoning or a temporary use permit, though there will no longer be a clear directive in the bylaw for staff and or council to deny future applications if council decides to proceed with this recommendation. Okay, care facilities is next. And this is relating to childcare, community care, and supportive housing facilities. The definitions for care facilities have been revised to better align with the Community Care and Assisted Living Act, along with the district's business licensing program and Island Health's licensing process for these facilities. The new zoning bylaw proposes to permit childcare facilities, community care facilities, and supportive housing in all zones. And this is to try to minimize administrative hurdles associated with providing these facilities, and instead more so rely on the health authorities' licensing process, which is quite rigorous. And this will help determine where and how these facilities may be operated. And something that is important to note here is that the new definition of supportive housing that's proposed in the bylaw does explicitly exclude facilities containing safe consumption sites. So this means that this kind of facility would still require council's approval. If you've had a chance to take a look at the draft bylaw, you will have noticed that there is a large section in there dedicated to landscaping that has been added as part 7. And these new landscaping requirements have 2 objectives. The first is to better retain and enhance the community's existing character via the tree canopy and native vegetation requirements, as well as to ensure that new development is complementary to existing neighborhood character. And this is particularly in cases where gentle density housing is proposed. We have also introduced impervious surface maximums into the residential zones so that the amount of impervious landscaping that's used on a property will be limited. And this is in an effort to address any potential drainage or stormwater management issues on site that could result from new development. The new landscaping regulations are also meant to replace landscaping requirements that are usually triggered through development permit area guidelines for new gentle density development of 4 or fewer units. However, these are not meant to replace additional specific landscaping requirements that could be required for higher density residential multi-unit type developments, as well as non-residential developments such as commercial or industrial development where a DP might still be required. So it is important to note that future updates may be necessary to the OCP to better align with this approach in the zoning bylaw, should council choose to move forward with this recommended approach. So similar to landscaping, we have also expanded requirements for screening within the new draft bylaw as well, also included in Part 7. And this is in an effort to better enhance compatibility and transitions between non-alike land uses. So for example, landscape screening must be provided along lot lines of land that is zoned for industry purposes that abuts land that's in a non-industry zone. We have also clarified what constitutes a landscape screen. So a landscape screen includes vegetation, trees, shrubs, and solid fencing. And we have added in both minimum and maximum height requirements for fences, landscape screens, and tiered retaining walls. Okay, now talking about a different topic, mobile vending. This has been added as a permitted use in all zones where commercial uses are permitted in the bylaw, which includes most mixed-use industry, marine, and park and public use zones. This does not change the business license requirement for mobile vending. It actually enables mobile vendors to operate more freely in the community without needing to first obtain a temporary use permit that would be tied for the mobile vendor to operate only in one specific location. So now, because we are more broadly permitting mobile vending, an operator would not be tied to operating only in one location. Okay, everyone's favorite topic is parking. We have a few slides to discuss parking and loading and the changes that have been made to the bylaw. So first we'll chat about some of the more general changes that we have made to the approach related to parking and loading in this new draft bylaw. So this bylaw refresh really did provide a great opportunity to simplify the existing parking and loading requirements to make them easier to understand and to administer for both staff and the public. And through this process, we have aimed to clarify the parking and loading requirements according to updated use definitions. So you'll notice as you're going through the bylaw and comparing definitions of this draft bylaw to the existing bylaw, the uses look rather different than before because we've consolidated and collapsed a lot of those wherever possible. And so that had trickling impacts to our approach to managing parking in the bylaw as well. So we've made sure that there's alignment between the parking standards and those new use definitions. We also aim to clarify regulations for user-specific parking and loading types through this bylaw update as well. So what that looks like was modernizing parking requirements for barrier-free parking, also referred to as accessible parking, and establishing clear visitor parking requirements, just for example. In addition, the new parking requirements aim to reflect that Euclid is typically an arrive by car community, and also aim to align the parking requirements where sensible with similar uses in other Vancouver Island communities. The requirements also ensure that there will be sufficient off-street parking for both residential and non-residential uses throughout the community. And the last thing to note about our overall approach to the updated parking section is that we have removed the existing option for cash in lieu of parking to be provided. And so this was done in an effort to guarantee that off-street parking spaces would be provided at their actual cost at the time of development, unless of course the parking requirement happens to be varied, rather than accepting arbitrary dollar value per parking space that the district would then be responsible for administering later on at a rate that might no longer reflect the actual cost of providing and maintaining the parking. So another parking related item that we focused on as part of this bylaw update was the introduction of electric vehicle ready parking space requirements. And so this was something that we had talked to yourselves about, Mayor and Council, back in January as well. And at the time, the direction was to seek input from the community on this topic. And so just for clarity, before we talk about the approach that was landed upon, an EV-ready parking space, we should clarify, does not necessarily equate a parking space with an EV charger installed. So an EV-ready space is one that has the infrastructure available in terms of the wiring, the electrical wiring, that can accommodate the future installation of a charger, but it doesn't mean that a charger is necessarily immediately provided at the space. So this is what we have chose to implement requirements for in the bylaw to give the property owner or the developer that flexibility to choose if they're going to provide a charging station or not. And so, as I mentioned, we did talk to the community about this to better understand where they may like to see EV ready or EV charging stations provided, as well as reviewed best practices. And so based on that, we have drafted our regulations accordingly to require EV ready parking spaces at new multi-unit residential development, hotels, motels, and strata accommodation development. And the number of spaces that is required is based on the total number of parking spaces required for that use. So for example, if an apartment building has 15 or fewer units, then there is no EV ready spaces that are required. But if the apartment building has 15 or more units, then 100% of the parking spaces must be EV ready. We have also introduced bicycle parking requirements into the new draft bylaw. And so this breaks the parking requirements down into short-term bike parking and long-term bike parking. A short-term bike parking space is meant to provide a spot for a cyclist to park their bike for a short visit to a site, so usually less than 2 hours. So this is typically just a bike rack outside of a building. It's not a secure space. A long-term bike parking space is meant to provide a secure and covered space for a cyclist to park their bike. They're staying there for a longer period of time. So this is usually a bike locker or a bike storage room. So similar to EV charging, we had also sought out feedback from the community on this topic, and their feedback alongside best practices was used to inform the approach that we have drafted in the bylaw. So short-term bike parking requirements are noted in the bylaw for some commercial and institutional uses, and long-term bike parking requirements are noted for residential developments with 10 or more units, along with some commercial and institutional uses that might be key places of employment or places where visits are typically longer in duration. So like a school, a recreation facility, an office space, etc. And the number of parking spaces required is one space per 100 square meters of floor or lot area. And this is very similar to how the standards are written for vehicle parking. Okay, so that's everything related to parking. Now we'll chat about service stations. So the zoning bylaw, the new draft zoning bylaw, no longer permits service station uses outright in any zone. Rather, it accommodates existing vehicular and marine fueling stations as site-specific use permissions. And this approach protects existing operations while also ensuring that council will have discretionary authority over new vehicular and marine fueling station development in the future. And in case you're wondering, what is a service station? Well, it's where fuel, automotive parts and accessories are sold, and might sometimes include something like a car wash or a towing service, or maybe also like a convenience store as kind of like a ancillary use to the operation. Okay, shipping containers is next. So the existing zoning bylaw is silent on the use of shipping containers. There's nothing mentioned in here. But to ensure that shipping containers do not potentially become an unsightly use in Ucluelet, in the draft zoning bylaw, we have explicitly prohibited the use of shipping containers to store flammable, explosive, or hazardous materials. As well, shipping containers have been permitted in some residential zones with restrictions. So those restrictions are that they are limited to a maximum of 1 per lot, and that they're only located in the rear or an interior side yard. And again, that's to reduce any hazards or unsightliness associated with the shipping containers. Okay, the last item before we get to the zones is urban agriculture. So if you recall, this is also an item that we had discussed with you back in January, Mayor and Council, and we had brought this forward to the community to seek their input on this topic as well, though we did not receive a ton of clear direction from the community on where to go with urban agriculture. So this was something that we relied more on best practices and also understanding the local context of Ucluelet and what might make sense for the community in relation to urban agriculture. So we have decided to introduce some provisions related to urban agriculture into the new draft zoning bylaw for the purpose of advancing the district's goals related to food security, while also balancing, creating a balance to ensure that there aren't any wildlife issues or hazards that could potentially be arising as a result of permitting urban agriculture. So for clarity, we have included a definition of what is urban agriculture in the bylaw, and it is the small-scale growing of crops or production of farm products, in addition to the keeping of poultry and bees within an urban or suburban environment. And so the draft bylaw permits urban agriculture in all residential zones, as well as establishes clear enforceable regulations for various forms of urban agriculture. So, for example, if someone wants to have chickens on their property, there is a maximum number of female birds that you could have on your property. Male hens are not allowed. So that's one example. Another example, if someone wants to have a beehive, for example, for doing some beekeeping, there are minimum setbacks that have been imposed for structures used to house bees. And these sections these requirements are included in section 6.9, so in part 6 of the bylaw. Okay, so at this point now, I will turn it over to Kara, and she is going to walk us through the changes to the zones.
Thank you, Brittany. So as Brittany discussed at the beginning of this presentation, the new bylaw format allows us to organize zone-specific provisions by related zone category rather than by individual zone. Next slide, please, Brittany. So doing this allows us to shorten the overall length of the bylaw document, but it also gives users the ability to review regulations applicable to similar zones without needing to flip back and forth between multiple pages or multiple sections of the bylaw. And then to the end of organizing the zones, all of the existing zones have been reviewed, consolidated, and reorganized to better reflect existing uses, minimize redundancies, and improve alignment with the existing land use map that's found in the OCP. So as a result, the total number of zones has been reduced from 36 to 33, but more importantly, the number of subzones have been reduced from 38 to 28, respectively. And just also something to note is that we've included a clear statement of intent for each zone, which is intended to support applicants, staff, and council in navigating future development approval processes, particularly in relation to applications for rezoning. So all of these updates, name changes, and consolidations have been reflected within the draft zoning map, which is included as part of the draft zoning bylaw and shown on the screen here. And this also includes ensuring that zoning reflects existing uses, like we talked about at the initial meeting when we first met with you, council, such as making sure the waterfront industrial properties along Eber Road are properly accommodated within industrial zones, as well as pre-zoning select sites for additional residential density in accordance with the findings from the multi-unit pre-zoning sub-project. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on in this presentation. I'm now going to walk you through each of the zone categories themselves. So the current bylaw has 8 separate low density residential zones, plus a few additional low density subzones embedded within the CD zones. And so to reduce and minimize redundancies, we've consolidated the zones wherever the permitted uses, the minimum setbacks, height, lot coverage maximums, and lot size were the same or similar. And this has resulted in 5 unique low density residential zones. The first, the neighborhood residential, is a new zone comprised of subzones that were previously embedded within the existing CD1, CD2A, and CD3 zones, and is intended to accommodate traditional low density residential development with limited temporary guest accommodation uses where they were already permitted. The small lot infill replaces the existing R5 and R6 zones and accommodates small lot subdivisions just for single detached dwellings. And then the comprehensive infill zone is sort of the new gentle density zone, which has been applied to all lots previously in the R1 and R4 zones, as well as R2 zone lots that have been already developed with low density residential uses. And so this zone is the result of the gentle density sub-project, which again, we'll talk about a little bit later in more depth, but it is intended to support gradual residential infill in existing neighborhoods by permitting both small lot subdivisions intended to accommodate single detached dwellings and a suite, as well as up to 3 or 4 dwelling units per lot, depending on the configuration or the developer's desired form for the lot. So this could be a triplex, this could be a duplex with suites, or again, it could be a smaller lot subdivision with a single detached dwelling, or it could just be a single detached dwelling on the regular size lot.
Brittany, I'm getting the sense from council that they read the report very well and would like to get to some questions.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, we can fast forward. Do you want me to touch briefly on the sub-project findings? Would that be helpful? Or do we want to skip right to the end?
I think probably the one that we should just touch on is the short-term rental one, just because it was such a contentious item. And so for Mayor, I'll just quickly introduce that one. For Mayor and Council's information, Council did provide direction with respect to review a previous bylaw amendments that would not allow a unit to be used for short-term use if it had previously been rented out for long-term. So you will note in the presentation here, we've taken that, we have reviewed it, we've tested it in the community, and there's a lot of tension around short-term rentals to be expected. But the proposal put forward is one that we've talked to you before that would remove that provision. It modifies the bed and breakfast regulations for any new build and would simply allow a suite to be used for a long-term use or short-term use, but it wouldn't prohibit short-term use if it had previously been for long-term use. But I do think this, just because this is such a community contentious, there's so much contention in the community around this one, it would be just beneficial to highlight this sub-project if that's okay with Mayor and Council, and then we can get into some questions.
Absolutely. So yes, the short-term rental review companion project. The result has been that we've created a updated short-term rental framework, which aims to balance the potential benefits and the known impacts of STRs, and also responding to and incorporating the immense amount of feedback we received from the community on this topic. So for starters, we consolidated, removed, and revised all of the related definitions to better align with the terms that are included in the Short-Term Rental Accommodation Act, just to make it clearer to people where things are coming from and what the authorities are. And then, yeah, as Tyler said, we've moved forward with removing bed and breakfast, but then we've also made sure that existing operations are clearly captured and permitted moving forward within the use-specific regulations tied to accommodation and home occupations. And then we've included a couple other provisions, such as requiring that all short-term rentals be permitted only on lots where a principal resident is living on site, permitting vacation rental accommodations or the use of an entire dwelling unit in low-density residential zones, provided they are operated out of a secondary dwelling, such as a secondary suite or coach house, and not a principal dwelling. And I will add the caveat that that is not in all resident or low-density residential zones. That's just the LDR1 and LDR3. And then limiting short-term rentals to a maximum of 1 dwelling unit per lot, except for the existing bed and breakfasts or specific accommodation zones, which have replaced the previous VR1 zone. And then finally, permitting long-term residential uses within strata accommodation units, which were previously defined as resort condos. But yeah, can briefly touch on next steps, and I'll pass that back to Brittany, and then we'll get into questions.
Okay, so we'll do a quick overview of next steps. So if all is well with the bylaw today, as you will have noticed in the recommended motion to council, the next step would be to refer the bylaw to external agencies for review and comment. This is something that will need to happen regardless of how things proceed during the conversation today. The agency referral is an important component to ensure that we are seeking input from those external agencies, and that if they have anything that we need to address, then that can be integrated accordingly into the bylaw before it is adopted. In addition to that, providing the community with an opportunity to review and comment on the draft bylaw as well. So that usually occurs around the same time as the agency referral, but council is also welcome to direct us to have that happen at another time if so desired. And then so once the bylaw has been referred to the agencies and all comments have been addressed as necessary, then we would prepare the bylaw for consideration by mayor and council for readings, and then it would move into the approvals and public hearing stage of the process. And so we will turn it back to Tyler at this point to discuss the options that were included in the council report for how to proceed with those next steps.
Thank you. Very quickly, what we would be recommending here to mayor and council is that if they have a degree of comfortableness with the bylaw, we would get that over to agencies for review. Most importantly, YG to respect their 60-day timeline and the request on these type of referrals. But we do think we've given a list that we would immediately refer to. If something popped up, we would of course get that to the agency, that appropriate agency as well. But we have included WildSafe BC just because of some of the challenges with respect to development patterns and the wildlife attractants that we've been collectively trying to deal with. So we view them as, especially with the provisions around urban agriculture and just making sure that we're not putting something in place that might contribute negatively to the problem. As we are on a condensed timeline, we would do that parallel to making some changes ourselves to the draft bylaw already. The decision around high focus tonight is one where we were kind of just waiting and hold. We do have some discussions with big property owners as well that we want to make sure, in particular a warehouser, that they're comfortable with the bylaw and there's nothing in there that might be of concern to them. we would make those tweaks and we'd prepare a first and second reading bylaw to bring forward. And then we would give council some options if they wish to grant first and second reading of the bylaw, when to host the public hearing. There may be some options and that would be council's prerogative to set that date. So we would bring that forward with a few options for your consideration. And of course, if council has any alternate direction, we would follow that as well. So happy to answer any questions on process or the bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions for Mr. Brown? Seeing none, there are two recommendations if anybody would like to move those. Councillor Anderson.
And just a quick comment, I just want to say that when I first moved here, I remember we were at a housewarming party, and there were so many different. There was basically an argument because everyone had different interpretations of the bylaws. So we were talking about, and the particular case was about short-term rentals, and how close they could be. What if you could have a 220 hookup, and it was just crazy, the interpretation that was wildly different. Some people had the same situation, but they had a different outcome when they went to planning. So I think this is terrific. I think this is long overdue. There's so many parts of this that I like. And talking to Brittany at AVICC you can tell that, I think a lot of people probably think doing bylaw stuff is pretty dry, but you can tell they really love it. And, so talking to them we definitely had the right people working on this. So that's great. So I will move the council receive the draft zoning bylaw and associated zoning map attachment A for future consideration of bylaw readings.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? I actually can't see Councillor Noel. Can you stop sharing your screen? Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I'm awake now.
Okay. Okay, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
And I just want to really quickly mention there's so many little parts in here that I love that we needed to update because they're apropos for our time now. Maybe back previously they weren't, but being able to have care facilities and mobile vending is sort of a sign of the times, and be able to do that in any zone, I think makes so much sense. So I'm just really happy that this makes our job so much easier. So I'll further move that council directs staff to refer the draft zoning bylaw and associated zoning map to external agencies for review and comment, including Alberni Clayoquot Regional District, ACRD, Clutha Government, Island Health, WildSafe BC, Tourism Ucluelet, Pacific Rim School District 70, and utility providers, BC Hydro and TELUS.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple comments.
Councillor Noel.
Yeah, agencies, it just been kind of trig here. A couple of them I thought maybe of adding for bonus, since we're going to a couple that I didn't think we'd go to. I'll just throw it out there. Canada Post, RCMP, and BC Ambulance. Those are big providers to the coast, and just so they're privy. I don't think we've really reached out to Canada Post ever, and it might be interesting to see they're aware of what the town could look like. Your thoughts on that one, group?
I never thought about Canada Post. Why would you refer to them? Councillor Noel?
Pardon me, what was the question?
Oh, I just never thought about Canada Post. Why would you send a referral to them?
Well, it's no different than BC Hydro or TELUS. They're a service provider. They're living in an ATCO trailer right now, and just knowing what the town could look like. That's the only reason I was saying that.
Mr. Brown, thoughts?
Thanks, Mayor. I don't think that would harm at all. It may be beneficial, as I do know there is challenges within the community just with respect to mail delivery, and it may be just useful to receive comments back if they may not respond at all, but it could be useful.
And the ambulance service and RCMP was the other two?
Yeah, just again, RCMP levels haven't changed since 1980. Still 5 officers, and again, it's just as Mr. Brown indicated, we may get nothing, but my preference would be to see it on there. And we hear nothing, that's fine. But if we at least we've done our due diligence, and in 10 years from now, when our community continues to grow, I'd just rather feel knowing that we did extend the olive branch for participation.
Is that okay with staff?
Yeah, if that's council's prerogative, from just off the cuff here, I see absolutely no issue with those referrals at all. You never know what you might get back, and that could be useful. So
Great. Okay. Thank you. Where are we at? Oh, any further discussion?
Mayor, I will add, we have been, as we do this, we'll also be working with the community, but also we have been linking well with the development community on this project, as well as real estate community. So they'll also be, just to make sure that, if people are watching, well, where they are. So we are reaching out to them. We've had some sessions with them at the start of this session, and we'll continue to have those kind of sessions with them. And then I just wanted to also thank the consultants and staff and council. When we started this back in December, this was a lot of work. You saw that in the presentation, that this is a lot of material. It is a major project, and you've seen that in the presentation. So very pleased with all the work that consultants have done and staff, and the community and council have been really a part of this too. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
It has been a lot of work.
and if you don't mind, just before Brittany and Cara here run away, and I know you guys been eating and breathing this for 6 months. You can tell you're passionate about it, and even in your delivery here tonight. I just want to, you've heard it from Richard there. We thank you for the work. This is not glorious work, but you've done such a thorough job on it. I know that it's going to be a document that we're going to use here for the next couple of decades. So thank you for the efforts here. Your whole organization has been fantastic on this whole file.
I agree about Urban Systems has been fabulous. Thank you so much for all your work. I read this report word for word this morning, so very familiar with it. And thank you for your presentation. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too. The second report is titled Lot 16 Marine Drive Update, and it will also be presented by Tyler Brown, Director of Planning and Strategic Initiatives.
thank you, Mayor. Touching upon a property across the street. This property does have quite some significant recent history. Several years ago, council adopted zoning amendments that essentially divided the parcel into three key components: a townhome portion, a single-family residential portion, and a multifamily portion of the site. The site itself is a piece of land that is very well connected within the community. It's close to parks, it's close to the amenities, and it's of course close to this facility. Through that zoning amendment process, a covenant was registered on title that had numerous provisions with respect to a certain amount of parkland, but significantly it had one that laid out the road network and required the road network to be built through the entirety of the site, and the multifamily portion of the parcel to be built before the subsequent sections of the parcel could be developed, specifically the townhome portion and the single-family residential. This led to ultimately legal action between the developer over the Section 219 covenant and the district, but the BC Supreme Court upheld the covenant's validity in the district's favor, following a developer's petition to have it deemed invalid. That has created an impasse with respect to the site. But based on council direction and initiative by the developer, we have been working over the last 3-4 months to see if that impasse could be addressed through some potential covenant amendments. From my perspective, those conversations have been very constructive, and they have been collaborative to try to get to something that would work for both the development proponent and for the district. As the report outlines, I'll just outline some of the key aspects. It's intended to introduce flexibility for the district. And what it was allow is the developer to construct the single family portion and the townhome portion, whether or not the multifamily portion is built. What the district would gain if it grants these covenant amendments is the option around the parklands and to take either cash in lieu or the or the park itself, but also have the right to first refusal on the multifamily portion of the parcel. None of these are obligations upon the district. There's no obligation to purchase, nor is there obligation to take cash in lieu of the parkland. These would be up to the future discretion of council if these amendments are passed. But what it would allow is the district to have the option on a zoned and serviced multifamily parcel in a great location in town. It would also allow us to look at different financing options with respect to that by taking cash in lieu of those parklands and not having those cash restricted, and give council options to explore housing partnerships that may target non-market aspects of the housing market. Like I said, this introduces flexibility but no obligations. One last key change in this would be that the connection to Victoria Road would no longer be required, which the covenant has. It would be instead only necessary for a pedestrian connection and an emergency connection, and that would be essentially a gate where the fire department has a key if in the event they need that emergency route. The recommendation in the report is to authorize the mayor and corporate officer to execute amendments to the Section 219 covenant, and if council does approve this, that's what we will do. And like I just want to reiterate, there would be no obligation upon the district to purchase any parcels at this point. Those would be discretion of future councils. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. This does open some options up for both the district and the owner of the property. So happy to see that staff has been working with them on that. Any questions for Mr. Brown? Councillor Anderson?
Maybe just a check to make sure I'm getting everything right here. I know there was some trepidation with some folks that were chatting. We did win in Supreme Court when we were arguing about getting that 48 unit apartment. But what did we win, right? At the end of the day, we're definitely not winning any housing, and it was definitely an impasse. Despite winning, it really puts us nowhere in terms of housing. So I think this is a good solution. But I think on the surface, a lot of people in the community went down the road of this was us against, we were deserved, this 48 unit apartment building, and people are really clinging to it. And we I guess at some point we have to realize it's just not going to happen the way that it was originally intended. Even though that we've won this, we can't force them to do it. And we are missing middle. So to do some of this housing and get it going, and having the ability to potentially purchase this and have the first right of refusal puts us in control of that potential affordable housing, much more than sort of languishing in this situation that could go on forever. And that would be, I think, what would happen. It would be a waiting game. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it would just be almost like a war of attrition at this case. So I think this gets things going. There's a couple parts here that I really like, and one of them is there were some people that lived on Victoria Road that were not happy about having that road punched through. They were very concerned about that. To me, this obviously is greater because now we're just having that one road coming off Matterson, so that's not an issue anymore. It's just an emergency entrance exit, and the idea that they're taking away the playground. Later on in this report, we talk about proposing a playground across the street. So I don't see that as a loss either. But I do think people have to get there. It's a tough pill for some to swallow because they felt like, hey, we're going to hold, the developers' feet to the fire with these apartments. But there's a lot that's happened that people haven't seen in camera discussing this, and this legal case has gone on and on. And I would just want to implore to the folks that weren't in those meetings that this was a really long process, and we're at this point now where we just have to do something that makes sense. And this is the best thing that we've seen come across in a very long time. So in the interest of getting something going, I think this is probably the best thing that we've seen in a very long time. it makes sense. It's not the original plan, but the original plan I think we really have to let go of. And I think moving forward, this one makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's about it. But I think it's a tough one because some folks were willing to die on that hill. And despite winning that case, I think the real win is just getting people accommodation at the end of the day. And I think this is our best shot at doing that.
I totally agree. This opens up the possibilities for us to actually own that piece of property and partner with potentially CMHC or Macola or Bolinas or some other entity that could actually provide the affordable housing that we really need. And that lot is the perfect location. It's right across the street from here, and it's fully serviced. It's flat, easy to build on.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's the decision to purchase isn't ours right now, but it, given first right of refusal, it opens up the opportunities for us. So, and getting cash in lieu of the park, the playground, the $1,000 a door, any of those options would potentially contribute to us purchasing that property and developing it ourselves or partnering with somebody to do that. So, yeah, I feel this is a really great second choice to what they proposed initially because they couldn't find a builder for that apartment building.
Yeah. It might be a good time to, Tyler, do you think, I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, but to people that are interested about what could possibly happen on that lot A where the 48 unit apartments are supposed to be, given the first right of refusal, could you just walk us through a possibility of what we could see there? So the mayor mentioned nonprofits like Macola or Bolinas. What might that look like? And I know this, I'm putting you on the spot here, but I'm just trying to get an idea for a community member that might be like, oh God, we lost lot A, we've capitulated to this, but I would just kind of walk us through a possibility if we were to buy that lot.
Sure. So there's a lot of variables there, but with respect to purchase, there would be options for council, of course, if they wish to exercise the option, if they were taking cash in lieu for some of that parkland to offset the price. Council does have significant, or the community has significant online accommodation platform funds, which we have confirmed can be used for the development of affordable housing programs, including the purchase of land. So there is options there with respect if council did want to exercise that option to financing the purchase without necessarily drawing on property taxation to fund that. When it comes, if council has this parcel or any other parcel, there's a lot of options with respect to how the affordable housing segment can be tackled, especially if you're looking at subsidized or non-market housing. The more common item that I think we often think about is we partnership with BC Housing and a provider such as that you named there, Mayor. That is one option, and that's something that could be explored. There's also other options where you council can determine certain value sets that they would like to see in a development, such as a certain amount of affordable rent or items like that, and they can put it out to RFP for both not-for-profit or private for-profit developers to put together a response for council's consideration. Those are options. Those would be two main options. There's, of course, along that a whole spectrum of variables and tweaks that you could do, but that would be the type of items that we way down the line here, depending on how this shakes out and future decisions by council could explore and have information for council to consider.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Brown? Nope. Okay, seeing none, there is one recommendation. I think Councillor Noel is
I'll move that for you if you wish.
Okay,
I thought
sure.
someone else, I thought Anderson would jump on there.
yeah, go for it.
I move that council authorize the mayor and corporate officer to execute modifications to the section 219 covenant registered on lot 16 plan VIP 76214 district lot 281 Clackwood land district Expect plan VIP 80735 at X plans VIP 83067 and VIP 86140, consistent with the intent outlined in the report titled Lot 16 Marine Drive update dated June 23, 2026.
Thanks, Councillor Noel. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Oh, that was a tie. Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just a one quick comment, the 10-second comment. Yes, outside of this, the intent of the rest of the property of lot 16 doesn't change. No nightly rentals. It's a great win for the community, and so I don't think the original plan has changed. I think this is a great thing for the landowner. I think it's a great thing for the community, and having the first right. We already know that we have funds available to do something and really control the destiny of this lot and the timeline as well. So I'm very happy to move this and appreciate staff that's been working so hard on this file to get it to where it is today.
Thanks, Councillor Noel. Yes, I was really happy to hear that those conversations had been happening between staff and the owner, and that they've come to this possibility for everybody to win on this one. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed. That carries. I'm going to call a 5-minute break, if I may. 5:51 before we move on. All right, we're at 5:57 and we'll resume our meeting. Oh, did I miss something? Okay, the third report is titled Zoning Amendment for 604 Rainforest Drive, and it will be also presented by Tyler Brown, Director of Planning and Strategic Initiatives.
Thank you, Mayor. This one you should be well familiar with. It was before you quite recently, this property here for 604 Rainforest Drive. Rewinding a little bit, in 2005, this property was established part of the Rainforest subdivision, and it was originally zoned for mixed-use commercial and residential. There was a recent proposal for a medical clinic on the bottom floor, and this is the site of the failed foundation. Earlier this year, the applicant put forward an application for a 12-unit proposal. It would have been one 3-story building that consisted of 6 long-term units and 6 short-term units on the smaller short-term units on the bottom floor. Based on discussion around the last one and feedback that was heard through the public hearing process, the applicant has modified the proposal. That's why it is before you. It's not an identical proposal. There's 2 key changes. The first of all, it's still a 12-unit proposal, 6 that would be long-term residential only. The upper floors, the larger units, but now the smaller units on the bottom floor could be used for either long-term residential or short-term. That's the proposal the applicant has put forward, where previously it was for short-term rental only. And also in response to the feedback, the applicant has worked with our fire department with respect to potential site circulation, and they were able to reconfigure any potential road network for this building concept proposed, and that would allow them to achieve the parking and the access, but also where previously they could not, establish a 4-meter landscape buffer along the north and west property lines to improve that transition with the existing neighborhood and provide a vegetated buffer. So if council was to proceed with this proposal, that 4-meter buffer would be secured. Unlike the last proposal, where there was sort of 50-50 commercial, the way this breaks down, it's odd, and I can appreciate the confusion that this is continually causing in the community, but a public hearing would not be required for this, but notification of first reading would still be required, and we would, of course, if council advances this, we would give notification, and any feedback we receive through that, we would make sure is provided to mayor and council. So that radius would be the same in the community. So there's that option there, but fully acknowledging it's not the public hearing process. That is not an option for the district. Just to be very clear, I think there was some confusion on some of the recent applications that's an option the district has implemented that has been mandated by the province, that it's prohibited from holding public hearings. Staff's recommendation is to provide the necessary zoning or create the necessary zoning amendment bylaws and bring those forward to council for consideration, and of course providing public notification for consideration of first reading. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. So under policy or legislative impacts, it does state a public hearing is not required for this residential zoning amendment. But under summary, it actually states moving the amendment forward to a public hearing will provide the community with a formal opportunity. So that's just a typo or
My apologies, Mayor. That would be an error on my part of drafting the report.
that was just a copy paste thing, probably.
It definitely was.
Okay, perfect. And the buffer, the green space buffer, I'm sure will make some of the neighbors happy, because that was a big part of the feedback that we got last time was the impact of this particular site on the neighboring properties. So moving this forward advances, it allows us to receive further information and referral responses. So this isn't giving it first reading. This is just accepting this for information.
And then, if council moves it forward, we will proceed with the creating the bylaws and providing notification to the community when first reading is about to happen.
Notice of first reading.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Questions for Mr. Brown?
I've got one.
Councillor Hoare?
Will we get like a landscaping plan for that 4-meter buffer? Like, are they gonna plant it? Are we looking at baby plants, mid-sized? Like, will we get a plan for that space? Because I think that will matter a bit to the neighbors.
At this stage, we would likely just provide high-level details that would need to be secured. They would simply go in the covenant, and then establishing a certain type of buffer to a degree, whether it's treed and it's vegetated. We'd be working with the applicant on that. And though that language would be reflected in the covenant, and it would be resolved at the time of development permit. So a landscape plan at this point at the zoning would be my opinion, would be slightly premature. Just it's a level of detail not typically seen for rezoning, but would be required at time of development permit.
All right. I sometimes mix up when these things happen.
Hey, easy to do.
That's a good question, though. That was really good. Any other questions for Mr. Brown? Seeing none, there is one recommendation.
I can move that.
Okay, Councillor Anderson.
I'll move the council direct staff to prepare the necessary zoning amendment bylaw for the development proposal for 604 Rainforest Drive and provide public notification regarding the consideration of first reading.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed. That carries. Wonderful. The fourth report is titled Mobile Vending Business License at 1801 Bay Street, and it will be presented by Hannah Walsh, planner. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is an application for a mobile vending business license at 1801 Bay Street, also known as the Raven Lady. As you know, pursuant to Section 16(1)(a) of the Business Regulation and Licensing Bylaw, Council must approve a mobile vending business license before it is issued. The proposed mobile vending business is a food truck serving a rotating menu of pizza, charcuterie, meats, and vegetables. The operator will be Long Beach Event Company, the owner and applicant of which is here today. They are the same proprietor as the food truck at Huckleberries. Both food trucks will have comparable offerings, but the applicant is looking to operate a second food truck in a more poignant location. 1801 Bay Street is in CS2 zone and fronts Peninsula Road. CS2 zone already permits mobile vending use on properties fronting Peninsula Road. The food truck proposes to operate on weekends between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. And the food truck is hoping to sync with the cold beer and wine store neighbouring liquor store, which closes at 11 p.m., offering late evening food alongside liquor purchases. Electricity, water, and washrooms will be via existing on-site facilities, and grey water will be managed through a pump and haul system, which will be emptied periodically by an agreement with the Clulet Rented Centre. Proposed staffing is compliant with the Business Regulation and Licensing Bylaw, and the zoning bylaw does not require parking for mobile vending unit use. However, there is approximately 10 public parking spaces in the surrounding area. The applicant has been coordinating with the fire department on siting, and they've also been made aware of other applicable regulations, such as the restriction on noise after 10 p.m. within our noise regulation bylaw, and the dark sky guidelines within the OCP relating to lights. The applicant and owner have come to an agreement about caretaking the Raven Lady Square with regular maintenance, landscaping upgrades, and new soft lighting. And food trucks are a known benefit to the Ucluelet community, and this one proposed creates an enhancement of the Raven Lady landmark. Staff's direction is to approve the business license. I'm happy to answer any further question, and the applicant is also available to speak and answer any other questions too.
Great, thank you very much. I don't know if people will remember this, but that was Jigger's original spot when they very first started with their food truck. And then they moved to their current location, and then Raven Lady had their food truck there, which was oysters and whatnot. Yeah. And so it is a food truck kind of destination. So yeah. Yeah, very thorough report. Thank you very much for that. And any questions for Hannah? No. If not, there's one recommendation.
Yeah.
Councillor Anderson?
And thank you for that report, Ms. Walsh. That was great. That was fun to read. Did a great job on that. I will move that council approve mobile vending business license application at 1801 Bay Street, the Raven Lady.
I'll second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion?
It'll just be nice to see a little revitalization in that area,
Oh,
actually.
totally.
Yeah, I think
Be anything but good.
COVID kind of put an end to the Raven Lady because they couldn't find staff
Yeah.
for it, and so it's been 6 years. Yeah,
Way too long.
nobody's going to hear you unless you go up to the podium. So go ahead. Happy to have you comment.
Oh, there we go. Better?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, it's in a little disrepair. All the woodwork's all chipping, the finish and everything. So we're gonna try and put a new finishing on the wood and get some nice like greenery and just make the whole place look a little nicer and sort of reposition everything a little bit. And I don't know, I think it's just such a nice spot in town and kind of a focal point. And I like the idea of people coming up at 9 o'clock when they've already finished their beer and they come in for another case of beer and they can order a pizza, go get, whatever they're gonna get and come back and, have a little snack in the square. It'll be nice again.
Perfect. Thank
So that's
you.
the plan.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. Did we vote on that? That was the discussion? Okay. All in favor? None opposed. That carries. Congratulations.
Your worship, I think you guys got it from here. I'm going to chime out and get back to this convention, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Noel.
You guys have a great night. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
And Jason, you don't have to stay. You can take off and back to your kitchen. Gotta go cook.
See, but
All right. The fifth report is titled Adventure Play Park Development, and it will be presented by Abby Fortune, Director of Community Services.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you, you have a recommendation that Council endorses the development of an adventure play park. Adventure play allows children to explore their interests, test their limits, and build confidence through physical, mental, emotional, and social growth. In March, the department submitted an expression of interest to develop an adventure play park on district's own property. The proposed location is beside the district skate park and adjacent to the UCC. The size of the area is approximately 20 by 25 meters, essentially the original size of the skateboard park. The park would incorporate natural play materials, a small trail system, and designated areas for fort building and, of course, tree climbing. Blocks for balancing and climbing, and a seating area with picnic tables for children and caregivers. The district was selected as one of the 10 successful applicants, of which 14 applied. Through this process, the Recreation Department secured just shy of $22,000 from the Free to Play Participatory Program grant, which was the same grant that was used for the extension of the daycare that you've recently approved, administered by the CPT Fund through the Community Foundation of Canada. Program development would include a construction of a short trail, selected underbrush removal, and placement of natural play materials. The approach is intended to minimize site disturbance, require limited ongoing maintenance, and support environmentally responsible design while promoting the health, well-being, and development of our local kids. Lastly, if endorsed, the park would host the department would host a community open house to gather input on park design and features while ensuring appropriate safety considerations are incorporated into the final plan. Any questions?
Great. Thank you for your report. And you've answered all my questions. One last question. The 22,000 grant, will that cover the entire cost, or what percentage of the total cost would that be?
It depends how we develop it out, but we feel that this would give us a good start with phase one. And then as we look at RMI, ACCs, other cost charges that come through, it's something we can further development develop out, but we feel that this would give us a good baseline with the funds. We originally asked for 25, but they were shuffled around.
Well, 22 is still pretty
Not
good.
bad.
Yeah. Any other questions for Ms. Fortune?
No questions, and I'm happy to read it.
Councillor Hoare?
Computers stop crashing.
Oh, no.
I recommend that council endorse the development of an adventure play park adjacent to the Ucluelet Community Center, subject to any required permits and installation requirements.
And I'll second that.
Councillor Anderson seconds. Any further discussion?
I just want to say, as somebody that grew up climbing trees and building forts in a forest, I grew up when the endowment lands was before it was Pacific Spirit Park, and that's my backyard was forest. So adventure play is so important. And I mean, I know our kids get a lot of access to forest, but let's create some within the district would be nice.
I agree with that. I would say also, yeah, once again, I think like Misfortune's knocking it out of the park here. It's no pun intended. Park, right? Knocking it out of the park.
In the park. This is a new park.
Knocking it in the park.
In the
But
park.
to be a kid growing up here is just, I see my kids, and there's so much to do, and the programming is amazing. Like the addition to the skate park, it's a really fun and great place for kids to grow up here. And so we thank you for all the work that you do there.
Thank you. And through the mayor, I'd like to add that my staff has been a big part of this, so I will pass that on to them as well. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Not to mention the water sports that are available locally as well, or just of one or two. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries. Wonderful. Okay, the sixth and last report is titled Finance Officer Appointment, and it will be presented by Richard Harding, our CAO.
Thank you, Mayor. Very pleased to introduce to Mayor and Council and the rest of the people our new CFO, Chief Financial Officer, Jane Lum, who's come to us from Parksville. And so tonight Council is to authorize her as our official officer, financial officer. I did say she had to get up to a speech, but because the zoning bylaw took so long, she couldn't do that. She also apparently has sung in the choir, and so she had a financial song to sing, but we've run out of time for that too. So unfortunately, you just have to deal with the bylaw or the bylaw in front of you, the council.
Well, it is karaoke night.
At the Army Navy?
Yep.
Perfect. Any questions for Mr. Harding?
What's a financial song? Can you give us an example?
It would be a surprise. I was looking forward to it.
There'd probably be numbers in it, I'm
Maybe
guessing.
you could give us an example.
I think, yeah.
Oh, money, yeah.
Yeah.
Money talk.
When it comes to mind,
Money
it's
talk.
the Count from Sesame Street. You'd sing some songs.
Oh.
Okay, we digress here. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 recommendations here.
I can do that.
Okay, Councillor Anderson.
Welcome aboard, Islam. I'll move that. What's that?
I said soon. First, we have to do the.
Oh yeah, we have to do this. The cart before the horse. All right. I'll move the council rescind the appointment of Jeffrey Cadman as the District of Ucluelet Finance Officer effective April 30th, 2026.
I will second that.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
I will further move the council appoint Jane Lum as a District Ucluelet authorized signatory effective June 23rd, 2026.
Second that.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
I will also further move that council appoint Jane Lum as the District of Ucluelet Finance Officer in accordance with Section 149 of the Community Charter and the District of Ucluelet Officers and Officials Bylaw number 1315 effective June 23rd, 2026.
I second.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
And lastly, I will move that council appoint the Director of Finance as the authorized collector.
I will second that.
Councillor Hoare seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
Welcome aboard now.
Yeah, now we can say it. Welcome aboard. I think she's
Expect a song next time.
next time.
We'll give you some time.
Money Talks is a good one. Okay, are there any notices of motion? Seeing none, there are two pieces of correspondence on the agenda today. The first is titled BC Council of Forest Industries regarding request for official endorsement of forestry is a solution initiative. And just a preamble to that, we kind of don't do proclamations anymore because we decided a while back that proclamations really don't do anything. We do light up our sign at the junction for a couple of occasions, but this is a little bit more than a proclamation. It's they're asking us to do three things: officially endorse the Forestry as a Solution campaign, encourage community members to visit forestrysasolution.com to sign the petition and send a letter to their MLA, the Minister of Forests, the Premier, and the official opposition forest critic. And number three, support staff to share information about forestry is a solution through your community's official communication channels. And when I read this afternoon, I just did a little Google search just to ask how many mills have closed recently in British Columbia. And it gave me this information: more than 20 major mills, sawmills, and pulp mills have permanently or indefinitely closed across British Columbia since 2023, driven by a crisis in economically viable timber supply, high operating costs, and escalating U.S. softwood tariffs. Here on the coast, 10 mills have permanently closed since 2018, resulting in 5,800 direct job losses. So it is it is an industry that is definitely declining, and I'd be happy to support this, but happy to hear from councillors what they would like to do. Oh, there's nobody on the screen. I guess it's just us three.
Yeah. Sorry, what's the ask? I'm just trying to get my head around it. So we officially endorse it, but we send the letter to our MLA, Minister of Forest, the Premier, and opposition forest critic. Is that right?
That's what they're asking, and to share the information about this campaign through our social media channels. I have a motion that I can read out if that helps.
Perfect.
I will move that council endorse the Council of Forest Industries Forestry is a Solution campaign in recognition of the importance of the forest sector to local jobs, economic stability, wildlife risk reduction, sustainable resource management, and the supply of renewable wood products, and that council directs staff to share information about the campaign through district social media channels.
I'll second that.
Councillor Anderson seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed. That carries. Thank you. The second and last piece of correspondence on the agenda today is from Michelle McDonald regarding parking. And when I read this, it's more about accessibility than anything else. So my first thought was to refer this to the Accessibility Committee. Ms. Fortune?
Go ahead. Yep.
Through the mayor, thank you. The Accessibility Committee has identified this. They identified this at the end of April, and I've since met with our manager of operations, and we're looking at finding a solution for this situation. But it was definitely the top 5 that was identified by the Accessibility Committee, and there's more than one location that we're looking at, but it is a part of this. So we are moving forward with putting a proper plan together, which I will bring back to council.
Great. I was especially sad to see that she's tried to access the Sunday market multiple times and hasn't been able to find parking or accessible parking, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it was something that we identified when we saw the original change to parking plans down there and the change to single direction flow through, was that there would be a problem if we did not have more accessible spots.
And through the mayor, what we're looking at is both accessible to the district office, because that is a critical piece of government infrastructure, as well as the play space in the Sunday market and that whole area. So that is, as well as we're looking at the Cedar Road washrooms are not as accessible as they could be. So that's something we're looking at as well.
So the washrooms themselves are accessible, but just where they are is not as.
Getting to them can be a little challenging if
Right.
you're in a wheelchair or on a walker. So we are looking at plans, and we will have a report to you shortly.
And so has someone reached out to Michelle McDonald?
I don't believe so. I would be more than happy to reach out to her.
Perfect. I don't think we need a motion for that, do we? No. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to mayor's announcements and council committee reports. We have Canada Day coming up at the Village Green, Wednesday, July 1st, noon till 3. And the road in front of the Village Green will be closed during that time as well, from 12 to 3, which happens every year. I think we made a kind of a universal motion last year, so we don't have to keep repeating that motion, or 2 years ago. Yeah, perfect. Okay, and so I will be there. And Yuki Days is coming up July 24th to the 26th. I saw the flags are all up on the Peninsula Road today. That was really a nice indicator that Yuki Days is coming. And the district is looking for volunteers. The forms are online, or I believe at the front desk of the UCC here. And there's a website, yukidays.ca. So we'll see you there too. And so on to council committee reports. Councillor Anderson.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. So going back to last on the 17th, I had an Alberni Clayoquot Health Network meeting, and that was the one that we were able to wrangle our seniors advocate for BC, Dan Levitt, to come and speak at, and that was terrific. To get him to come and speak at that was a pretty big deal. Quite timely, because there's been a close of there's no more home care in Tofino right now, and there's like basically a desperate need for beds and long-term care. We're lucky here, but we definitely are going to need an expansion of our system here with Forest Glen at some point, if not right away. And the conversation was great. We started to have some ideas of thinking outside the box. So I've asked his folks if he would come and give a delegation here, and then we're going to ideally work with Tofino and Brookwood and a handful of people associated with Family Resources and the hospital up there about what we could do to put together basically a West Coast strategy for seniors in housing. So that would include additional long-term care beds, assisted living units, and potentially some complex care beds back into or being back in the hospital, and with the future hospital, like have that mapped out as well. And this could serve Tofino, Ucluelet, Ahousaht, Ucluelet, and Tloquit, and Toquat as well. What else we were talking about? The recruitment of home support workers is a huge issue right now. So basically the immigration program that we had in Canada for home care workers was paused, frozen. So that's had a very negative effect on having home care workers out here. And there's actually none in Tofino right now. It's an issue. And obviously, one of the things that I learned when we started doing this is that, excuse me, is that seniors tend to live a lot better and healthier and longer when they age in place. And that's well known now. So we're trying to figure out ways to do this. We've got some meetings coming up with the health minister and infrastructure and some other folks. So we're just trying to map this out. So when he comes for a delegation, we can talk a little bit more about that and what some routes forward would be. But yeah, we were just coming up with some other potential ideas, whether that's even potentially getting some money out of Tourism Ucluelet or DCCs and other, thinking outside the box. If we have a real tough time with getting an expansion for long-term care here, there's probably other ways that we could be looking at this. Sorry, I could go on and on about that. I kind of really get into that stuff. What was the other thing that we did on that day? We later on that day we had the special council meeting for housing, which was very timely and important. And then just that was about it for me. And yesterday I met with Gord Johns just to discuss the idea. He said that he would help us look into the transfer of that DFO property that's down by the lighthouse, and engaged about that. And he's excited with the plan that we have moving forward. But yeah, I can't say too much about that right now, but yeah, I will see if we can get the needle moved a little further on that one than before. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hoare?
I get to go back a little bit because I wasn't here for the 9th meeting. On May 27th, I attended the Groundfish Trawl Advisory Council meeting as I attend as an observer, and just there's been some interesting things happening with regards to hake, and so there'll be more of that coming, because I wanted to kind of attend some of these meetings in advance of the meetings that I attend in mid-July. That is the big assigning of trawl quota. So yeah, that was the end of May. And then also there was a Vancouver Island Regional Library Board meeting on May 30th, which was also the 90th birthday of the library board. So that was kind of cool. And they have a number of really interesting traveling exhibits going on right now. And they, including one on the land grab, which is all about the ENN Railway land grab. And it's just kind of some really interesting stuff. And I mean, I would love to get it here, but I think it's only going to slightly larger libraries than ours. But you can read about it online. So, and Summer Reading Club has started, which is all about the undersea this year.
Did they do anything for their 90th birthday?
Well, there was cake if you attended in Nanaimo, but I was zooming in, so no cake for me.
Virtual cake.
Virtual cake. It doesn't taste as good. Just saying. Then on June 12th, lucky me, I got to be a dealer at the prom night for the grads for their casino night. And I think my brain exploded that night because everybody wanted to play poker, and you're trying to teach them, but you're dealing, and you have to not be biased one way or the other. So yeah, anyway, it was super, super good fun. And then of course they all graduated on Saturday on the 20th, which I got to watch the live stream thanks to Mako, who's no longer here to get the thank you, but I have shouted that out quite a bit. Really appreciate that as somebody who has attended for 20 years. It was weird not to be in the room. The other thing that I did on the 16th was attended the Elder Symposium here in the UCC, and it was really good, and I really wish more people had been here. The amount of information was phenomenal. Lots of attendees, Island Health, BCEHS, the WCRS, Pacific Rim Hospice, Food Bank was here, Red Cross was here. There was a group that does personal planning, like legal personal planning for people, and spoke about like representative agreements and powers of attorney and that sort of thing that can happen when people get older and stuff happens, and things that you can do or you want to have in place prior, but also there are some things that you can set in place when somebody actually isn't able to do something. So they have a fall and they hurt themselves and they're not able to deal with some of the legal issues. There are some steps that you can take. The other really interesting group that was there is a group called Ears to You, which actually brings hearing tests. They're mobile hearing tests all over the island. And they're actually coming out to Ucluelet. They're going to be doing hearing tests at Forest Glen. So, I mean, our absolutely massive audience out there. Anybody who thinks they can't hear so well, please, like, literally Ears to You is the name of the company, and you could Google Web it, or you could call Forest Glen. I know Pat said you could call Forest Glen and they would set you up with how to make an appointment. Just, all of these things are stuff that can help you age in place and age better. And there was some interesting information from Island Health on staying strong and steady, which is all about fall prevention, working on your balance and stuff, which is incredibly important as you get older. It's actually something that my aunt in Vancouver focuses on, and she teaches people how to teach classes to do this sort of stuff. So who knows, maybe I need another life. Also, the 15th or 16th was actually World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and there was a presentation here in Chambers about that and just some of the issues around ageism. And one of the attendees, there were about half a dozen of us in the room, and she commented that she wanted her dog that she'd had for a long time had passed away, and she went to the SPCA to adopt another dog. And she was told she was not allowed to adopt because she was over 70. And then I remember that my mother had that same problem because she wanted another cat and she was not allowed to adopt either. And I'm like, so the elder who is here who wanted the dog, she ended up getting her son-in-law to be the official adopter of the dog so that she could get a dog. But like, it's an incredibly, like, if you're able to have one, and we all know that having pets is one of the things that actually is really good for aging healthily. It's one of those subtle things of ageism. So anyway, and they were talking about being bold and aging with attitude. And I'm like, I could adopt that 100%. I'm going to age with attitude. And what else happened? Oh, our special council meeting, but not nearly as interesting as the elders symposium that everybody should have been at. Just saying.
Our seniors advocate, Dan Levitt, he talks about ageism, and I hope he gives us a presentation when he comes as a delegation, because he's a really good speaker and funny too. He doesn't tell dad jokes, but he tells ageism jokes. So yeah. No, that's great. Thank you, Councillor Hoare. All right, for myself, June 10th, 10 a.m., I was at the Barclay Community Forest Corporation Board meeting at the Tokwat office, mainly just discussing the AGM that's coming up tomorrow morning, actually, here in this room. It's not open to the public, but we will be deciding, actually tonight, who the board members will be from the District of Ucluelet for that AGM tomorrow. And then that same day at 1:30, I attended the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board meeting on Zoom, and that was where we awarded all the grants in aid. It seems like they're quite a ways behind when we do it, but that was June 10th is when all the grants and aid awards were awarded. June 16th, in the morning, I met Andrew McLean at Lot 13 just to get an update from him, and it looks like some foundations are being poured and some building permits have been picked up, and so things are progressing on Lot 13, so that was pretty exciting. June 17th, we had a Tourism Ucluelet board meeting, but also added the 2027 MRDT planning session. MRDT is the municipal and regional district tax. That's the 3% that accommodation providers collect from their visitors. And so because of that, that meeting ran from 11 till 3. So it was a really long meeting, but really, really good feedback. And I think every single board member was present in person for that one. No, one person Zoomed in, but all the rest of us were there in person. And then there was the special closed council meeting at 4 o'clock that day. June 20th at 2 o'clock, I attended the USS grad, which was really exciting because it was the largest grad class in USS history, 56 grads. And so that room was packed. There had to be close to 400 people in there. It was just crazy, which is why it was invite only. But yeah, thanks to Mako helping financially. Jeff Johnson was able to live stream it, and I don't think it's available to just anybody. If you want to watch it, you have to get permission to watch the live stream, for privacy reasons, I guess. But anyway, I'm glad you were able to attend in person
It
or
was-
in
yeah,
on
we
live
were,
stream, in person.
cheering and quietly and clapping quietly.
Yes.
But it was super good. And he had a hallway cam. So you got to see things before people went through like when they were first coming out.
Oh, to the walk up?
Yeah. So you could see them all and they were all like making faces and stuff at the camera because they could see the hallway cam. And then they went out to do their like grand entrances. It's always super fun to see all the grads dressed up.
Dressed up for sure.
There's fancy duds.
And the music to the walk up is always worthwhile being
Yeah,
there for.
The live stream didn't have the same music because they couldn't get the
Audio?
No, they couldn't get the copyright for it. So they had different music for the live stream.
Oh, too
That was the
bad.
one thing Jeff said he couldn't, in 24 hours couldn't manage.
Right. Oh, gee. Well, still, that was great that they were able to live stream it. And Jaden was there, the fellow that was in the accident at our water treatment plant, and he arrived in a wheelchair, but to accept his diploma, he actually stood up on stage, he got a huge round of applause from everybody. It was really, really touching. So that was great to see. Yay, Jaden.
I think I saw a standing ovation when he entered.
Yeah. Okay, that's it for me, for my meetings. So we are now moving on to question period. This is an opportunity for the public to ask questions and comment on matters within council's jurisdiction. Representations about bylaws that council is prohibited from holding a public hearing on, or bylaws that were subject to a public hearing, are not permitted at this time. Are there any audience members that wish to address council? No? Okay, there's nobody here. Ms. Pelchat, are there any members of the public attending by Zoom or telephone that wish to address council?
No, Mayor.
And have we received any emails to community@ucluelet.ca during the meeting?
Well, yes, we have. Yes, we have, but it wasn't really related to the period question, so it's just been forwarded to Mayor and Council
So that can just be forwarded to us
directly. Yeah.
directly. Okay,
Correct.
perfect. Thank you.
I forgot something in my report. Can
Oh,
we jam in
go
before
ahead.
you close the
Yep.
session? Thank you to Miss Fortune. This past Saturday morning before live streaming the grad, I attended the Pride Parade. And it was a fabulous turnout. So many families and small kids and bubble blowing. And a lot of face palming on my part because I have a whole bunch of like bubble blowing equipment that could have come. But anyway, I just want to encourage everybody to, think about it for next year. Find your rainbow umbrella or your, bright colors. And it was just a really nice walk. And there were, vehicles that passed us were honking and shouting and being very positive. So, and the break helped out with some of the organizing, and we're accepting donations for Coastal Queers. So, an organization that does a lot of really good work on the coast. So.
And I believe Ms. Fortune is going to be working more closely with that group just to kind of fine tune it for next year.
That's correct. Through the mayor, we've already got our special events coordinator on it, and we were happy to support and thank you for your support as we move forward and bigger and better for next year.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, nobody else has forgotten anything, so I will move that the June 23rd, 2026 regular council meeting be closed to the public pursuant to the following sections of the community charter. 90(1)(a), personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality. 90(1)(c). Is that crossed off? Did I see that, Ms. Pelchat? Or do I read that? 90 brackets 1 bracket C, labor relations or other employee relations. 90 brackets 1 brackets E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. 90 brackets 1 brackets G, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality. 90 brackets 2 brackets B brackets I, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality and a provincial government or the federal government or both, or between a provincial government or the federal government or both and a third party. At 6:43.
Does that need to be seconded?
Do we need a seconder for that? Sure.